The Council of Eternal Voices had assembled in the Grand Archive of Veltar, their luminescent forms flickering with anticipation. For 3,000 cycles they had studied the sacred texts, ancient inscriptions found on a derelict vessel drifting through the Omega Nebula. The symbols were unlike anything in the known galaxy, angular and harsh, speaking of warriors and honor in a tongue that predated recorded history. High Archivist Zalmek raised his crystalline appendages, silencing the murmuring crowd. "Today," he announced, his voice resonating through the chamber, "we unlock the God Code. Today we speak with the ancients themselves." The discovery had shaken the galactic community. 17 species had sent their finest linguists, cryptographers, and theologians. The consensus was unanimous. This was divine scripture, a language used by the progenitors, the mythical beings who seeded life across the stars. Wars had nearly erupted over who would control the translations. Religious movements had formed overnight, worshipping the harsh beauty of the unknown script. Dr. Chen Wei-Lin stood at the back of the assembly, trying very hard not to laugh. The human delegation had been a last-minute addition, almost an afterthought. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage, barely 2 centuries into their spacefaring existence. They were seen as curious primitives, technologically adequate but culturally insignificant. The fact that they'd sent a xenolinguist specializing in dead Earth languages had been viewed as almost insulting. Chen adjusted her translator implant and watched as Zalmek began the ceremony. The chamber darkened, and holographic projections of the sacred texts materialized in the air. The symbols glowed with an otherworldly light, carefully arranged in what the council believed were prayers or cosmic laws. "Klingon ma," Zalmek intoned reverently, reading from the texts. "Behold, the first words of creation." Chen bit her lip. She'd recognized the script the moment she'd seen the preliminary files back on Earth. She'd tried to tell the delegation coordinator, but he'd dismissed her concerns, insisting she observe proper diplomatic protocols and wait for the official presentation. A Veltharan priest stepped forward, mandibles clicking in religious fervor. "Kostavis what Ramlo said Husijla Ketboglodi," he recited, his voice trembling with emotion. "The prophecy of the eternal warrior. Surely this speaks of the great cycle." Several species in the audience began their traditional gestures of reverence. The Srathi coiled their serpentine bodies. The Vorlons dimmed their bioluminescence in respect. A Thexian monk began weeping. Chen raised her hand tentatively. Excuse me?" Zalmek turned, his attention finally acknowledging the human presence. "Dr. Chen, do you wish to offer insight from your species' primitive mythology? We welcome all perspectives in understanding the God Code." She winced at the condescension but pressed on. "High Archivist, with respect, I don't think this is actually a divine language." The chamber fell silent. If crystalline beings could look scandalized, Zalmek managed it. "Dr. Chen, we have analyzed these texts with quantum-level precision. The mathematical complexity alone suggests—" "Pretty sure that's Klingon," Chen interrupted. The silence deepened, now tinged with confusion. "I'm sorry, what?" Zalmek's translator seemed to glitch on the unfamiliar word. Chen stepped forward, pulling up her own datapad. "Klingon. It's a constructed language from Earth entertainment media, specifically from a fictional universe called Star Trek, created in the mid-20th century. This script, it's called Pika D. That phrase you just read, Kustavis wat Ramlo said, Hugh Sijla Ketbog LOD. It translates roughly to 4,000 throats may be cut in one night by a running man. It's a Klingon proverb about assassination efficiency." The council stared at her. Someone's translation device made a sound like choking. "Impossible," declared Veltharan's chief theologian. "This vessel predates your species' space travel by millennia. The mathematical precision of the grammar—" "Oh, the language creator was really thorough," Chen agreed, warming to her topic. "Mark Okran designed it with a fully functional grammar system, complete with grammatical cases, verb prefixes, and suffixes. It was meant to sound alien to human ears while remaining speakable. There are dictionaries, language institutes, even theatrical performances conducted entirely in Klingon back on Earth." She swiped through her datapad, pulling up references. "The phrase you called the first words of creation? Title Inganmaich. That just means we are Klingons. It's basically a species identifier from a fictional warrior culture." Zalmek's luminescence had turned a sickly shade of purple. "But the derelict vessel, the age of the materials, Our carbon dating? Oh, the ship is definitely ancient, Chen confirmed. I'm guessing what happened is that a human vessel, probably from the early exploration era, maybe 21st or 22nd century, crashed or was abandoned. Given humanity's tendency to name ships after fictional vessels and include cultural archives, she trailed off, seeing the dawning horror on alien faces. Someone probably had the complete Star Trek database on board. Maybe the ship was even named Enterprise or Defiant. Humans are sentimental like that. A Thexian monk stood up, his voice filled with desperate hope. But the wisdom in these texts, the philosophy of honor, the warrior's code. Yeah, Star Trek had pretty solid moral lessons, Chen admitted. Gene Roddenberry was dealing with complex themes about diversity, ethics, and the human condition. Or, the sentient being condition. It resonated with people. Still does, apparently. She gestured at the assembled galactic leaders. Congratulations, you've independently discovered that good storytelling is universal. The silence that followed was profound. Somewhere in the back, a religious artifact clattered to the floor. Chen felt a twinge of sympathy. Look, if it helps, the franchise also promoted values like peaceful exploration, respecting other cultures, and working together despite differences. The Klingons themselves underwent an evolution from enemies to allies in the narrative. There's actually a lot of meaningful philosophy embedded in "Get out!" Zalmek's roar shook the chamber. "Out, all of you!" As the council dissolved into chaos, some species demanding verification, others experiencing theological crises, and at least one delegation trying to secretly download Chen's Star Trek files. The human linguist quietly packed her datapad. Ambassador Torres found her in the corridor. "That could have gone better, Doctor." "Could have gone worse," Chen replied. "At least now they'll stop planning wars over translation rights." She paused. "Should I tell them about the Klingon dictionary or let them figure that out themselves?" Torres considered this. "Let's give them a few days to process. Then maybe we can introduce them to the Klingon Language Institute. They offer courses." "Think they'd be interested in the fan conventions?" Chen. "Right. Too soon." As they walked away, Chen heard the beginning of what would become the galaxy's most embarrassing academic retraction. But she also heard something else. The Veltheron priest quietly asking his aide to acquire these Star Trek archives for study. Perhaps, Chen thought, humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization wouldn't be technology or military might. Perhaps it would be teaching the galaxy that even fiction, even entertainment, even made-up languages created for fun could contain profound truths about honor, diversity, and what it means to explore strange new worlds. She smiled. Gene Roddenberry would have loved that. Kapla.